You know what really grinds my gears?
It is September 11th, 2024, and it is the 23rd anniversary of the tragedies that happened on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It is a day nobody will ever forget. It is a somber day. It's a day of remembrance. I've never gone into the details of what I was doing that day before in my vlogs. I might have mentioned it a few times, but I never really got into it. What I was doing, where I was, my feelings when it was happening. And I thought, now's the time to do it. It's on my mind. I've been up for a few hours now. I sent my son off to school. He's in first grade now. And I started watching some news articles and old video. And I started remembering, and I thought, I need to do this. I need to get my thoughts out in vlog form. And I need to do my therapy for the year. 2001, I was starting my last year of college. I started college in 98, right after I graduated from high school, that August of 98. I started up a 2-year program for internet web page design. And as I was doing that, towards the end of my tenure, it was a 2-year tech college, that's when the dot-com started crashing, and I'm like, this is not going to work out. I should get into something else because all the dot-coms were crashing, and they didn't really need web designers at the time because it was not looking good. And that's when I shifted course into tech support because they're always needing tech support. Businesses still need them to this day. So I switched course, and I stayed on for another 2 years. So I made a stop in tech college from a 2-year to a 4-year. So in my second and final year, September of 2001, starting my second year of computer technical support, every morning I would come in and I would start the day in the library area, and there was a separate room off the library where students could hook up their laptops, do their work in the study room. And that's what I did every year. I lived with my mom and dad. It saved on renting my own place. And so it was cheaper to stay at home and go to school that way. So I rode in every morning with my dad because he had to be on the air. He had to be on the air for whatever reason, for his job. He worked in radio. And my mom also worked. She worked north of town at the casino north of town. So I think that morning my mom took me. Yes, my mom took me because she had to work later that morning, and my dad was at home getting ready. So this was about 7:30 in the morning. I got dropped off, and I had time before classes. I think my class, that first one didn't start till 9. So I just hung out in the library for an hour and a half doing homework, chatting with my friends, checking emails, all that stuff. And I'm talking with my best friend Ryan from high school and middle school and grade school on Messenger. And as I'm working, I don't know what I was doing. He comes on a Messenger and he tells me a plane just hit one of the Twin Towers in New York City. It's on the news. I'm like, oh, geez. I hope people's okay. I mean, I didn't think nothing of it at the time. It was just, one plane, and I'm like, well, they probably have some bad weather going on in New York City. And maybe foggy and the guy was flying too low. That's what I thought at the time. I kept working. While I was doing that, I tried logging on to some news sites, and I couldn't get through. The internet was just like a came to a standstill. It was nothing. Thought nothing of it. Well, a little bit later, about 5-10 minutes. I don't know how long it was. Ryan got on, sent me a message, and he said, "Holy shit! Another plane hit the other tower." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "A second plane hit the other trade tower." And then I'm like, okay, one I can see happening, but two, in the other building next to it, this was no accident. And by that time, I was getting ready to go to class. So, and I still was having trouble getting the news up on the web, on the internet. All the major networks online were down. Even the newspaper websites I go to, Star Tribune out of Minneapolis, the Pioneer Press in St. Paul, the Forum in Fargo, all of them were sluggish. I think when I finally got through to one of them, they showed the still image, and it was bright, clear, sunny day in New York City, and that's when you knew this was no accident. So I packed up. Class was starting in 10 minutes. I packed up my stuff, and I'm just in shock. And I can see people around me just like, you can see how the demeanor of everybody changed. They heard the news, and they were getting scrambling, looking for people, and they were talking to each other. So anyways, I packed up my stuff, went to class, and the TV was on in the classroom. There were some people in there, and the lights were off, and they were just watching. And when class was supposed to start, the teacher didn't even start class. We just all watched the TV. And we saw the horror that happened within that next hour or two. The news of the Pentagon being hit. The fact there was other missing planes. They weren't confirming there was missing planes, but they said there was rumors of other planes possibly out there. And everybody was just in shock. And at that point, later on, all the teachers and staff announced that they were going to hold classes, but if anybody wanted to go home because of what's happening today, to reflect and, grieve and whatever, they wouldn't hold it against us. It would be basically an excused absence for the day. And I believe most of the people did end up leaving. So classes were pretty much canceled that day. And so where the college was to where my dad's radio station was, it was a few blocks away, north of town. So I knew my dad was rushing into work because he had to cover this, even though they're pretty much going to be simulcast, wall-to-wall news coverage nationally. But I knew when my dad got to work. And so I called the radio station and I told the secretary, "I know you guys are busy with what's going on. I need to talk to my dad quickly. Just let him know what's going on." So he got on the phone. He said, "What's up? Let's cook, quickly." And I told him, because of what's happening, classes are canceled. I'm going to come walk over, get the car, and go home because I'm not going to sit around all day and just twiddle my thumbs because classes basically got canceled. So I let him know I was taking the car so he wouldn't wonder, "Where's my car?" So he's like, "Okay." And then I texted my mom and I told her the same thing. It's like, you need to pick Dad up when you're done at work. Classes got canceled. I'm taking the car and going home. And then I wrote to her, or I told her I love you. I had a phone at that point, but I don't remember. Texting was expensive. That's when you got charged cents here and there. But I think I called her and left her a voicemail. And then I think she called me later, and I said, she confirmed, yeah, I took Dad's car and I went home. So I'm at home. I'm safe. And she's like, "Okay, I'll talk to your dad. Love you, blah, blah, blah." So I walked to the radio station, got the car, came home, turned the TV on immediately, and I just watched the news unfold. The towers falling, the attack on the Pentagon, and then it came out that the fourth plane crashed in a Pennsylvania field, And then the stories that came out that said that the people on the plane who were calling their loved ones found out about what happened in New York and Washington, D.C., and they took charge. They didn't want to allow these punks to do to another building what happened. So they took down, they rushed the cockpit and forced the plane down. And then there was talks of other planes possibly being out there. So FAA grounded all flights. The military scrambled the jets. And basically air flight was canceled in the United States. There was no planes in or out. Borders were closed. Thankfully, there were no other rogue planes that hit anything or shot down. I do remember sitting in the living room, and when they were talking about that all flights were canceled, and the military was, patrolling the skies across the country looking for anything, rogue. I do remember sitting there, and I heard a loud jet. I heard a jet fly over my house. I mean, louder than a regular plane. It sounded like Sonic, and just boom over the house. I'm like, what the hell was that? And then I remember we have a military base in North Dakota. I think it's in Grand Forks. Could be Minot. But I remember those planes flying overhead, and I'm like, okay, they're probably scrambling. That's probably some military scrambling north, whatever. But I'm watching all this unfold, and then finally my mom and dad got home from work. We all watched the TV, had dinner, kept watching the news. The recovery starting. I'm pissed. My mom's pissed. Dad's pissed. And then I go to bed that night, and my head's swimming as I'm laying there. And it finally hit me. The rage and anger finally went away, and then the sadness and just worrying about what's going to happen to our country. And sadness hit me that thousands of innocent lives have been killed just like that. And thousands of families are mourning the loss of their loved ones. And I lost it. I wept for our country and for my fellow Americans, my fellow citizens, because some assholes didn't like the way we live our lives. They didn't like our way of life, and they thought the need to kill people was the best thing for God or Allah. I have never forgotten that day. I never forget the images. They are seared into my brain, and I will never forget until the day I die. My heart goes for the families of everybody who died that day, the victims in the planes, the victims in the buildings, the police, fire rescue, Port Authority, who went into those buildings to rescue people and have them collapse on top of them. 23 years later, and we're still recovering from this. We're still healing. It hurts. I feel for the families. I always will. Things have happened since then that, safety has gotten better. But it's a world that will never change. It's a world that's changed, and things that we've done before 9/11 we're not going to be able to do anymore. We can't go through security anymore without being patted down and take our shoes off, take our belts off, have people go through our stuff. People can't go to the gates to wish their families and loved ones goodbye as they get on a plane. those days are over. Security's tight, as it should be, but my thoughts are with the families and the victims. And may all your loved ones, the victims, may they all they rest in peace.